What's up, everybody? Well, I got another ASUS G15 Advantage gameplay video for you guys today, and today we're gonna have a look at Alan Wake 2, but this time at 1440p. So I'm gonna try it at native like I did at 1080p first. That's probably not gonna go well. I mean, it didn't do too awful bad at 1080p, but 1440p is a whole other animal. So I'm gonna hop on in there and see what it runs, probably with about basically the same settings as before, because anytime I mess with anything any lower than that, it didn't really affect FPS that much. So that's why I left the settings the way they were. So in any case, why don't we go ahead, not wasting more time, and let's get into the game. All right, just like on 1080p, let's try native 1440p out. Now, this is probably not gonna go well if we were barely able to get 60-ish FPS at 1080p with these settings. This is probably gonna be a 30 to 40 FPS experience now, but just wanna try it out at native with my settings here, which are mostly just high preset with a couple things tweaked, like turning like motion blur and whatnot off. But anyway, now we're at the bottom. Let's go see how it does. Maybe it'll even surprise me. All right, here we are in the game. And we're getting 40-ish FPS right now, but we're at low 40s. So I'm sure walking around will drop into the high, maybe even low 30s here. Yeah, just for a split second we hit 33, but that happened when we were at 1080p too. It would drop down to like 47 for a quick second there. Watching the dead guy for safety, eh? Well, unless he's gonna turn into a zombie, I think you guys are okay. I don't know. I don't really think this is a zombie game. I think it's more of a weird spiritual freaking game, but it's hard for me to remember what the first game was like, and I don't even know if this game's gonna follow much from the first one, you know? They could have added a whole new thing to it. But from what I saw, it looked like they pretty much just took what the old game did, added a little, and even took a little away in some aspects.
Saga Anderson.
But still, looks really nice.
Seems you already know my partner,
at least
Alex Casey.
I can understand why this game runs, you know, a little slow on a system like this without FSR's help.
Mulligan. I just figured that, you know, that
Federal agents right here, Thornton.
my partner Thornton, down at the crime scene. He's not what you call the sharpest axe in the shed.
Right here? What do you mean? Are they with you? Oh, shit!
All right, we're just going to skip all that now that I know I can do that.
What can you tell us about the crime scene?
Tell them about the heart.
Were there any witnesses?
There might have been.
Couple out-of-towners.
I want to see the body.
All right, let's go see the body.
Oh, sure, that's real simple. Just through the hole in the fence.
And even though we're not getting lots of FPS, at least we're getting pretty smooth frame times. So that's pretty cool. At least this game does not seem to be super stuttery for the most part. Like going in between like the little map screen and in and out of that seems to be some stutter. And I think, yeah, going like this does too. But as soon as it's done with that, it seems to be all right. It just has to like load things in real quick. And as soon as it does, boom, we're back to being smooth again.
Taking another look.
And hey, if we're staring at a wall, we can get like, you know, 50 FPS. We're staring at a wall in her mind, technically, right now.
I see you're
anyway,
already hard at work.
pretty nice scenery.
Close to cracking it?
We're just getting started. Let's head down the hill to the crime scene.
Fucking nature. Gives me a headache. There's too much sky.
Huh. Thought I saw some over here, but it's just some, either a tent or something, or some mats, I don't know. What do we got up here, though?
You putting me in charge. Why now?
Look, Anderson, you're a better detective than I am. You've cracked cases that had the rest of us baffled. I don't want to slow you down.
We got some random papers here.
Retiring? You know what happens to cops who say.
Anyway, though, let's go try FSR now. All right, so now we're gonna turn on some FSR on quality, which I guess is 1706 by 960 when you're at 1440p anyway. So here are the rest of the settings. They're pretty much the same settings from 1080p. They seem to look pretty decent. And I figured they would run all right and give us around a 60 FPS experience, similar to what we got at 1080p. But when you have FSR on, it's still a little harder to run than native, so you're always getting a little less FPS than just straight up running it, 960p or something like that, or 1080p. Anyway, let's move on. Now, here we go with some FSR. And like I was thinking, we're right at around 60 FPS again, kind of like we were when we were at 1080p. But it'll probably do about the exact same thing. It will more likely drop down to like 54 or 55 or whatever at some points, just like it did when we were at 1080p. Even though this is 960p. When you have FSR and all that stuff, it's got to do extra work, and sharpen it back up and upscale and do all that work. So
Stairs
that
are
is
out.
why we're getting pretty
You okay to
similar
jump
FPS
down?
to what we did when we were at
I'm not
1080p,
that
when we were at much lower resolution. Just in case anybody was wondering. Still though, this doesn't look too bad. There's like not as much FSR shimmering as there usually is. So this must be like a very like 2.2 or something FSR. It's not 3, I don't think. Could be, but I don't think it is. It just says FSR. Or no, it says FSR 2, I think. So we know it's not FSR 3. We just don't know what 2. It could be 2, 2.2, 2.1. I don't know. So I imagine if it was one of the other ones, it would probably tell us, but you can never just assume that. But yeah, definitely nice scenery. And we're still at 10 gigs of RAM, using about 100 to 200 more than we were when we were at 1080p. And we're using 8.3 gigs of VRAM.
Not a bad place to get murdered.
If getting back to nature is your thing.
So, seems like even at 1440p, people with 8 gigs of VRAM cards could tinker around with it and get acceptable frame rates,
Damn.
probably.
Should have brought an umbrella.
I like the rain.
So that's always good.
The only thing around here that feels like home.
I was
You
really
think the
worried
local
this thing
law
was
had
going to
the
be a
sense to put up
massive
a tarp?
VRAM hog with
If
how
they
it looks,
did, Next coffee's on me.
Because for at least once, the game at least looks halfway decent to like warrant it running a little poorly without the help of upscaling. Most games nowadays, like Immortals of Avrium, I mean, the models and everything were okay, but everything else in the game was very mid. Like all the like textures and ground and everything else besides the characters were pretty just mid in my opinion. But compared to this is actually pretty nice. But at the same time, though, to me, it doesn't really look like way better than
Deputy
something
Thornton,
like Resident
I
Evil
take
4
it.
Remake did.
That's me, at your
And that
service.
got lots more
ready to get
FPS than
this
this, even
case
with ray
solved.
tracing enabled. Mind you,
Everybody's
way,
behind the
way
story.
worse ray
Come on,
tracing.
I'll show you.
This has path tracing and everything. And from what I was told, it even has ray tracing now, even though I have it off. Even though it's a very primitive version of it. But maybe that's just nonsense and maybe other people misunderstood and gave me false information that I read. So always keep that in mind. It's not like I'm saying I discovered this or anything like that. I don't got the technology to discover all this stuff, and I'm no developer. No siree. Anyway, though, why don't we move on to camera? All right, let's get a little camera recorded gameplay now. With my settings in FSR quality, and as you all obviously see, it does drop under 60 here and there, down to like 57. Or whatever, here and there, but for the most part, it seems to be a 60 FPS experience. So that works for me. And this is in the forest, which is supposedly...
Come on, Saga. Time to get back to work.
No. I'm gonna leave. I thought I was going the right way. I went the wrong way. Oops. Now, where was I? Oh, they wanted me to look at this. That's what they want. But anyway, the
I think I
this
hear
is supposed to
someone.
be the hardest place to run, being
Could
out
be
in
our
the forest.
deputy.
So I figured, luckily, since we started there, we just keep staying around there.
Hey, over here.
Now I know I can just skip all this guy's nonsense.
Hey there. Agent Casey, right? Sheriff Raker said you'd be coming by to take over the case.
You're half right. Anderson,
Saga Anderson. I'll be leading this case. Seems you already know my partner, Alex Casey.
Shoot. Sorry about that, ma'am. I'm Deputy Mulligan. I just figured that, that,
Federal agents right here, Thornton.
They're
my
right
partner
here.
Thornton, down at the crime scene.
But yeah,
He's not
see,
what you call
that
the
thing may be
sharpest
loud,
axe in the shed.
but as long as you have some actual speakers, that freaking cooling pad is not too bad. It's annoying. Most often than not, I would recommend just, if it bothers you, to just use headphones.
What can you tell us about the crime scene?
And then we can just skip.
Were there any witnesses?
Yeah, a couple out-of-towners.
I want to see the body. How do we get there?
Oh, sure, that's real simple. Just...
Before we get to the crime scene, there's time to review the facts of the case so far. Make sure I'm seeing the clues clearly. The facts are on the board. Everything we know about the previous murders. Worth taking another look.
Alright.
I see you're already hard at work, Anderson. Close to cracking it.
Mr. Anderson.
We're just getting started.
Well, I guess in this case,
Let's head down the hill to the
Mrs.
crime scene.
Anderson.
Nature gives me a headache. There's too much sky.
So we dropped down to like 56
Hey,
at points.
Casey. You putting me
Not
in
the end
charge.
of the world for a game like
Why
this.
not?
Look, Anderson, you're a...
I figured this was going to be a real, just complete, just
crack
crapshoot.
cases that had the rest of
Be
us
completely
back.
unplayable.
I don't want to slow
But-
you down.
Are
As
you
long as
thinking
you
of
use
retiring?
FSR, which that seems to be the way games
You
are
know
going.
what
If
happens
you
to
don't
cops
want to
who
use
say this is
FSR,
their
you're just going to have
last
to deal with
case.
it on the sub 60 FPS all the time experience. This was like, I think at 30 to 40 FPS with no FSR at 1440p, so that would be a no-go for most people. Some people would still be okay with that though, but not
Stairs
me.
are out. You
But
okay
still
to
wanted
jump
to show
down?
it off just for the people that don't like using FSR at all. But this is for more of the people that like having it be closer to 60 FPS all the time. Alright.
Not a bad place to get
But
murdered.
yeah, still, even at 1440p, it only uses like 9-10 gigs of RAM and around 8 gigs of VRAM. So maybe that's, well, not only the RAM. I mean, the
Damn.
RAM part would have been fine,
Should've
but
brought another
if I'm
one.
using 8 gigs of
I like the
VRAM
RAM.
here at
The only
1480p
thing
and
around
that,
here that feels like home.
You think
and,
the local law had the sense to put up a tarp?
whatever we got it at FSR, I
If they
can't
did,
remember what it was.
next
It was like
coffee's on me.
960p or something like that. Man, sucks having to use the FSR. Glad it's an option though. Doesn't really look that awful. Especially when you're, looking at the monitor itself. When you have it all blown up on YouTube to 4K, like I think captured it, it makes everything look bad.
Hey!
Deputy Thornton, I take it.
That's me, at your service, ready to get this case solved. Now the body's behind the store. Come on, I'll show you.
Anyway though, why don't we go ahead and go wrap this video on up. Well, alright guys, we're all finished here with Alan Wake 2 at 1440p, and it was not super playable at just native 1440p with my settings, but once you turn on the FSR, you get a 60-ish FPS experience with quality. And if people don't mind taking a little bit more of a, image quality hit, you could always turn it down to balanced, and it would probably basically always stay over 60. But I like the way quality looks a little bit better. I didn't really want to step it down to crap, I can't remember what it was under there, but I think it was like under 720p. But anyway though, still very playable. I mean, heck, it might be playable native for some. Some people do not care about games like this getting 60 FPS. Just me. Me and some other people like that, so I decided to make both crowds happy, hopefully. But if anybody wants to see me run ray tracing or whatever, just let me know. I just figured I'd ask that because I did not think that was going to go well, especially not path tracing. But in any case, that is all I got for you guys for this particular video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, because I sure as hell enjoyed making it for you guys. And until the next video, peace out, guys.